The one thing I never understood about certain people is them not respecting or understanding why you just don't want to be bothered with. And I think that there's a gap of understanding, or at least immaturity. If a guy just doesn't want to be bothered with, whether it be by his friends or whether it be the chicks that he's talking to, if the guy doesn't want to be bothered with, then let him be. Let the person reach out to you if you know that this person just wants to space out. And there are a couple of reasons why a person just wants to space out, and it's not necessarily have to deal with everybody or anybody. Primarily the reason could be just wants to be alone, doesn't want to be bothered with. That's had a long day is the second good point. If this person is out there putting in work or is being active within a day, at least be happy that the person is out there doing something. There are plenty of cases where just people don't want to do shit, and I never understood it. But to my point, like, if the person is always busy, if he's always trying to keep up with other things, being responsible, and if this person is keeping up with X, Y's, and Z's, then let him be. I don't understand what's the pressure who wants to bother someone. There's nothing wrong with giving somebody some space, and honestly, like, the more space you give a person when they ask for it is like the ideal thing. But I'm talking about guys, right? I'm not sure about females just yet. There's different kind of species when it comes to trying to figure anything out, really. But for the most part, if a guy just wants to take a break, the guy wants to space away, the guy just doesn't want to do anything because he's just busy and doesn't want to be, and when he's not busy, just wants to relax, then let him be. A very good example that comes to mind is, a typical life in a guy, especially if this person's very active. The person has, a typical 40-hour week job, right? It doesn't have to be 9 to 5. But essentially, the guy has to go to work from whatever time to whatever time for 8 hours a day. Typically to avoid traffic, because traffic is whack. The person wants to go to the local gym, and that's already like minimum 2 hours on top of the 8 the person's already using up. And this is assuming the person wants to avoid traffic, because traffic is a pain in the ass, right? Because what I do, I go to work, already an hour of my life gone. I work, 8 hours of my life gone. I drive to the gym, and then I'm active. Then that's a minimum of an hour and a half. I want to say wasted or gone. Well, it is gone, but at least taken advantage of. And then another hour to drive home, because distance from work is quite a bit for me. But this is typically like a day in the life of a person. I have to go to work, I have to go to the gym, and for the most part, the person is very content. I know I'm very content with my routine: work, gym, and then go home. And there are obviously other things that I need to do, like school or personal projects that I'm doing on the side. A part of it is making random videos on YouTube. But essentially, what I'm trying to say here is, if the person is going to be busy, typical life, a work balance is 8-hour work, hour and a half traffic max per day, or average, I should say, according to traffic. And gym has to be essential. And if the person's living alone, then there are other things the person has to do, like go to groceries, driving to the grocery store, paying some bills online. There are other things the person has to keep up with. It's not just himself. Right? The person is self-sufficient, the person is responsible, the person living by himself. There are other things that's going to take up this person's time, and it should. I genuinely believe the number one cure to anxiety is action. Going out there, putting in work, seeing some results, and strive to achieve the short-term goals that contribute to your overall long-term life goal. And you know what's funny? Like, the more you get busy, the more you start to understand how to adapt your time and the amount of work you have to dedicate it to. You'd be surprised how fast you'd be able to quickly adapt to your week. Right, so I took on a commitment this year to to go back to community college, learn some things on the side, just because I like learning, and then eventually I want to transition industries. Well, to my point, I was working my typical white collar job, and also taking a lot of courses on the side. And of course, I want to keep up with my social life and my gym lifestyle. And it takes a bit out of you to understand where to put the pieces down onto the table so that it makes sense and have the pieces of the puzzle fit together. But to my point, certain days you just don't want to do anything, which is a good thing. If you're always going to be busy, you always need time to recharge. And there are other days where I'm just 100% putting in work. And there are other days where I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna dedicate this day to just work, or dedicate this day to school. There's nothing wrong with partitioning your time as you see fit, as long as you have sufficient time and energy to do them. And of course, prioritize. We understand that we have exams and all this crap, but what pays the bills, right? And that's work. So obviously you're gonna have to prioritize the bills that you gotta keep up with, and at the same time understand that you just can't have everything. The one thing that I just learned, that I've learned, not just the one thing I've learned since teenager, is we just can't have everything. Or two things: we can't have shit every now and then, and we can't have everything. So if you want somebody, for example, as a partner who's smart and pretty, that's not a combination that's common out there. So you can't have everything. And say you just got something that you've been looking forward to. Maybe it's the brand new Battlefield or Call of Duty game that you wanted to play, and then once you played it, it's trash. So now you're like, oh my god, I can't have shit. Or you bought a new piece of apparel, or a new piece of clothing that you like, and then you get food stains on it the very next day, and you're like, oh my god, I can't have shit. But essentially what I'm trying to say is just to be busy. Be a busy person. It's number one cure, in my opinion, for anxiety. If you're an anxious person, if you're worried about the worst possible thing happening, then the best thing that you can do is to take action. There's this book that I read by Dale Carnegie. Essentially what he says is to figure out if you are anticipating a negative outcome, or there's a possibility of a negative outcome happening, then the best way to anticipate or prepare for this possible outcome, regardless of the possibility rate, is to plan for it. It's to anticipate for it. Live or prepare for the worst possible outcome, so that you were able to control the controllables and figure out the best possible move on a chessboard when you get hit with the worst possible thing. Alright then, fellas. Later.